I was scouted to join a playthrough of Minecraft's Hardest Skyblock mod pack with 31 other players, and I was invited to lead 3 other players as a veteran. The only issue is that I am not really a veteran, so join me on my quest as I attempt to get as far as I can in star technology before the server begins. Last episode, we made our way through MV and built our first few chemical mines. This time, our goal is to set up an A2 storage system. There are a lot of hurdles in the way, like a whole suite of them, so if we want our new storage, we'll have to work for it. Real quick, if you want to follow progress and help out in real time, head over to StarTech Discord and find the cooked or not cooked thread in the screenshots category. And subscribe to not miss the next episode. So one of the first things I wanted to do was get all my resources going in process, so off camera in between episodes I've been cutting all of my Certus geodes. So we're going to start crushing those like now. Through the silver, we're going to be crushing those now and then processing those now because we're going to be needing a good amount of Certus for A2 and I don't want to have to wait constantly. So next up, we're going to be actually doing something with the methane that we made last episode. I also strapped on an extra chemical reactor for iron chloride because this produces hydrochloric acid, and I figured, you know what, let's go with that because I am going to need this for circuits. Anyways, next thing that I want to make is polytetrafluoroethylene. Big word for something that's literally just a better tier plastic. So for this, I'm only going to need one more chemical, and that's fluorine, which should be very, very simple to get. As you can see, I have a ton of blue topaz. We're going to be electrolyzing it for fluorine because I'm not sure if there's any other way at this point in the game to get such materials. Alright, so for this I'm going to need 4 chemical reactors. I think they can all be LV. Oh, no, I need an HV one. Okay, that puts a wrench in my plans. Alright, that's kind of disappointing. So I guess we're going to need to get some HV stuff before we're getting polytetrafluoroethylene. So making HV machines, we're finally free from the wrought iron, but instead it's been replaced by polyethylene. So we're gonna have to make a couple plates of the stuff. So something else that I'm going to need is going to be lumium, because signalum does not transfer HV, and lumium should be fairly easy to make. Yeah, it's silver, tin, and glowstone. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start mixing up a bunch of lumium so that we can have it for when we have our stainless steel. Just because we don't have the materials for an HV chemical reactor doesn't mean we can't set up the rest of the lines. I'm going to be needing 3 of these. Right, there's the 3 motors, and there we go. We have 3 chemical reactors. So this one is going to take in methane and chlorine, and it's going to make chloroform and hydrochloric acid. The acid is going to be reused in the chemical reactor for iron chloride, and the chloroform is going to be outputted into this. Chloroform is going to go here. Actually, no, the chloroform is going to go into this spot, which is going to be the spot reserved for the HV chemical reactor, and this is going to be the end of the chain, which means that this chemical reactor is going to be the one that grabs the fluorine and the hydrogen in order to make whatever the other thing is. Now, I have spare electrolyzers, so it's not a huge deal. I can just go ahead and fluid output one side, item output one side, put a barrel on the back. Then we plug both of these in here. And now I can chuck in all of my blue topaz dust, and it'll slowly but surely, once I turn it on, oh, that was a close one. Okay, well, the electrolyzer needs to be MV. So for now, let's just make our fluorine inside of the already present electrolyzer. Now, I've set it to filter and not put the fluorine inside of the trash. Okay, perfect. Now, we're going to go ahead and pull hydrogen from here and deposit it into this chemical reactor. Nice. Alright, a dark blue network for a dark blue color. So now we've got hydrogen there. I've made, there we go, half a stack of cells. Now I can grab stuff like all this rubber because I have been wire milling some gold wires here, and if we put them in an assembler with liquid rubber, we're going to be able to make gold cables, which is what's necessary for HV machines. Now, next up, let's go ahead and let's grab some fluorine from here, and let's just dump it all into this machine. And that makes hydrofluoric acid. Okay, with no byproducts either. Also, while we're waiting, let's make some polyethylene sheet, because we're going to need some to make the casings, the hulls, for HV and EV, which is actually pretty interesting. First thing I'm going to do with the aluminum, now that that's done, is wire mill. There we go. We're going to make some 1x aluminum wires. Now, we almost have enough manganese to make 9 stacks of stainless steel, so let's just start throwing all this in the mixer immediately and getting this done, because stainless steel ingots, that's Invar. Why is it making Invar? Hold on. Alright, circuit 3, take 2. There we go. Now we're making stainless steel. So it takes 30 seconds in the mixer to make 9 ingots, and it takes about a minute in the EBF to make 1 ingot. But since we have 4 ABS, it's 4 ingots in a minute. Now, I have big plans for once I have stainless. And I mean, those big plans is another complete restructuring of the base, and that's going to include building an A2 system and having everything work around that, as well as building an actual ore processing system that can manage all of the outputs of the void driller, all of the outputs of the sieves here, large sieves, which I have heard that if I update to the new version that came out recently, Theta, these casings are going to break, I guess. The casings are going to be deleted. So I'm probably going to have to make a new batch of those as well, which means I should probably get these things up and running again. Look at that, we have stainless steel. We have an HV material now. Now the question is, am I allowed to make plates in the bender? Wow, I am. Still only 3 seconds. Wow, basic bender for the win. We've got aluminum wires, we've got some stainless steel. Let's just throw another chunk of 8 into the bender. And now let's take a look at the recipe for the Advanced Chemical Reactor 2. Alright, so the circuits are handled, the hull is handled. Let's look at this HV electric motor. Steel rod, stainless steel rod, electrum wires, and 2x silver cable. 2x silver cable. It's such a weird thing to ask for, but I will oblige. While that's going, let's go ahead and make the steel rotor. There's our rotor. There should be our motor, and now all that's left is the polyethylene fluid pipes, which will require an MB extruder. Okay. Alright, detour time. Alright, there we go. Advanced extruder. This is a machine that's been long overdue because it can skip stuff like having to, first of all, lathe an ingot into a rod, and then cut the rod into bolts, and then relathe it into a screw. You can just make it automatically in the extruder. But for that, I do need extruder molds. So now, what we gotta do is we gotta make an empty mold, and we have to craft it into an extruder mold, or a rod, and then back into a bolt, and then from there, a normal pipe. There we go. So now with this and the polyethylene ingots I made, we can make polyethylene fluid pipes. There we go, those are the pipes I needed. And now, all we're missing is our stainless steel casing, and then our HV hull. And now we can just go ahead and craft our advanced chemical reactor. So the chemical reactor is great and all, but now I need another HV hull. Let's go ahead and make ourselves another hull. And there we go, our 1 amp converter. And so now I can literally just go ahead and throw a laser node here, throw my 1 amp converter here, insert energy into the side and connect it to the power network, and then throw my reactor on top, and bam, we now have a advanced hold on, it should be going on this block, not the other one. There we go, it's rewired. So now this gets chloroform and hydrofluoric acid, and is making hydrochloric acid. Now this takes in oxygen, and this has a filter for tetrafluoroethylene. So now that it has both, liquid polytetrafluoroethylene! We have it! Let's place down a fluid cell on the side, set it as input and output. There we go. Wait, does this stuff glow? It started glowing. Anyways, we've got polytetrafluoroethylene. We're gonna start producing that, and it is going to help greatly in the near future. It's almost glorious looking at it. This thing is an absolute mess, but it feels really good to look at. I don't know why. Everything is just working in perfect tandem. Alright, now that all of the PTFE is done, time for Certus. Time to make our AE2 system, finally, after so much time. Now, for AE2, we are going to need quite a few of the storage components, right? And these storage components, they always require circuits of the circuits of a specific tier. So 1K requires ULV, 4K requires LV, and so right now we can access all the way up to the HV one. But for that, we're going to need an ME assembler as well. So I've just thought of another detour that's actually going to be pretty important in AE2, and that's going to be making phosphorus-doped silicon boules, which are the upgraded version of the normal silicon boules. They output a lot more, but they are going to require a advanced cutter, which means I'm going to have to start the HV machine line. Now, advanced cutter, it's going to be requiring 3 motors, 2 of which go to a conveyor module, and then we make our hull. And now to make the buzzsaw blade, we need red steel, which is composed of black steel, brass, rose gold, and steel. Guess who finally got his power? And of course the red steel ingots are going to be hot, so I'm going to have to cool them down. But while I'm waiting, it's time to get our hands on some phosphorus. And phosphorus is going to require me to process my apatite geodes. Alright, hot red steel is done. Go ahead and throw it into the chemical bath. Have that run. Now we can start to macerate our apatites here. I think the red steel is done processing and turning into plates. We've got our saw blade, and now we have our cutter. So if we throw it down right here, we now have a cutter that is twice the speed of this one over here, which just got done with its geodes. How convenient. And it's gonna let us process our phosphorus-doped silicon wafers. Now, what we want is the phosphate dust, the apatite dust, and the tricalcium phosphate. All 3 of these are integral, because not only can we electrolyze the apatite into phosphorus, but the phosphate and tricalcium phosphate as well. Alright, we have another detour that we need to take in order to get our phosphorus, and that is making a gas collector, because I need nitrogen, and the only way to get nitrogen at this current stage is to centrifuge air. Here we go, gas collector. Let's just throw it on here and set it to circuit 1. And now we wait for it to collect a bunch of air so that we can centrifuge it. Throw the centrifuge on here and then set my output to the left. And now we can go ahead and centrifuge the air. It'll take a whole minute and 20 seconds, so we're going to get 4 buckets of nitrogen, which is exactly what we need. Alright, all the physical components are done. All that I'm missing now is the gas, which I am going to need 32 buckets of. And right now I've got 15 buckets. I most definitely should have set up that gas collector early. Alright, they started making silicon ingots. I forgot to change the circuit, didn't I? Alright, hold on. I want to see, is it going to make another ingot, or is it going to recognize the recipe? Aha, there it is. Okay, it recognized the recipe for the boule. Neat. Oh, I don't think the others will, though. Oh, yeah, no, it's making normal boules. No, I don't want that. Okay, at least we're making 1 phosphorus silicon boule. This is a mess. Ooh, forgot about hot silicon ingot. Forgot about that. That sucks. Okay, so theoretically, if I set this one to work, got 8 buckets of nitrogen, got silicon, phosphorus, and gallium arsenide. Oh, the silicon doesn't exist anymore. Okay. There we go. It's making a phosphorus one. Cool. And now I guess there's no harm in letting these ones work and make me 2 normal boules. So these are going to take 10 minutes to finish. That's quite a bit of time. While we're waiting 10 minutes for these boules to cook, I am going to set my sights on a HV assembler, because this thing is going to unlock something that we have not had access to, and I think it's going to be absolutely amazing, and that's SMDs. So it's going to let me make SMD versions of all of the main components of the transistors, resistors, capacitors, diodes, inductors, right? And also the capacitors and inductors are new in HV. And now that I've looked at the recipes, the accidental crafting of the basic boules is a blessing in disguise, because I need CPU chips and I didn't make it. I am going to need a diamond plate though. So we're going to throw this in the cutter once we're done with the boules, because now we can go ahead and solidify it into some plates. And then I'm also going to go ahead and grab a bit of sulfuric acid. And then we throw all of this into a chemical reactor, which I should have, is it? Hold on. Yeah, we throw it all into a chemical reactor, which I'll just do it in this one. And now we're going to start producing plastic circuit boards. Alright, diamond lens is done. Let's throw in our circuits, and now we're going to be turning all of these slowly into CPU wafers. And of course I didn't really have the time to do anything else because our bools are now done. Well, one of them is done, which means it is now HV cutter time, and we don't have any lubricant for it. That sucks. Okay, that's cool. I'm not mad. I'm not mad. It's fine. It's fine, really. There's no problem here at all. So I'm gonna need 10 motors, which I'm out of. Okay, cool. There's our HV assembler. Now we're allowed to make SMD components, which are going to be very, very important in the near future. Checking in on our other machines, we now have a stack of plastic circuit boards. Now, with this stack of plastic circuit boards, I plan on crafting us 2 stacks of microprocessors and then upgrading all of these into HV circuits. And so for that, I'm going to need me 4 stacks of resistors, 4 stacks of transistors, and 4 stacks of capacitors, as well as 4 stacks of red alloy wire. But red alloy at this point is really cheap. Alright, where is it? My pyrolusite. This stuff is going to be useful now because I want tantalite, which is a new kind of ore. And that tantalite is going to let me make even cheaper most of these SMDs. So like, let's say the transistors require tantalum wire. The resistors require tantalum wire. The capacitors can also be made with tantalum. And the inductors as well, I believe, require tantalum. Yes. Anyways, most of our pyrolusite is done processing, which means we have 2 tantalite dust to work with. So the first thing I'm going to do with my 2 tantalum ingots that I was able to get is making fine wires, which is going to get me everything I need for my resistors. And then the transistors are going to come once I get another 2 ingots, and then the last piece, which is the capacitors, are going to come as well once I get a little bit more. Now with this tantalum wire in an assembler, we're going to go ahead and make our resistors first. I need me 4 pieces of carbon dust and a little bit of polyethylene. And this is going to go ahead and make me 4 stacks of SMD resistors. While we're waiting for that, I do have another project that I want to do, which includes me needing an electrolyzer and 2 centrifuges. So now the question is, do I have enough circuits? I don't have enough circuits for all of these, so we're going to have to wait on the circuits as well, which kind of sucks. I've just looked at some other recipes. If I want to speed this up, I can make a thermal centrifuge and run my pyrolusite through this because it has a higher chance of yielding tantalite. So I'm going to chuck this in here, and every 20 seconds we have a 1 in 3 chance to get tantalite, and then over here every 8 seconds we have a 7.5% chance to get tantalite. Next batch of tantalum has come through, so let's go ahead and chuck that in here. Now, even though tantalite is the cheaper option, I've already become tired of waiting for it, so I am doing the slightly more expensive recipes just to speed things up a bit. So there's the transistors done, and now I'm going to need polyvinyl chloride sheets. Now with these PVC sheets, we're going to throw them through the bender and turn them into thin sheets. And now we have the most efficient recipe for SMD capacitors for a long time. Right, since all of the parts are just about done, I've also made myself some soldering alloy for the special occasion. And then I also have a stack of plastic boards, which means that if I run over, I'm going to have to throw all this in the extractor real quick, get ourselves our soldering alloy. We can go to our circuit assembler here and just start to make our microprocessors. And let's just throw in a small bit of soldering alloy just to get this running. Look at that. While the MV circuits are currently being produced, we need to start working on the HV ones, which are going to be pretty expensive, but not too crazy. I think the main price here is going to be the 8 stacks of capacitors, which is pretty expensive. So first of all, let's work on the inductors instead. I'm going to start to process our tantalum into fine wires because we're going to need a lot of those. And while that goes, we need zinc ferrite. Alright, the first bits are coming out, and we're going to throw it into the extruder with a ring mold, and that's going to make us all the rings we need. Our tantalum wire is also done, so now I just chucked a lot of this in here, and we wait for our SMD inductors to be done. If we're to look at my inventory right about now, I am very close to having all of the resources necessary to make the final circuits, which are done, by the way. The MV circuits are done, which means we are only missing the plastic circuit boards. And you know what? Let's just start crafting these things while we wait for all the circuits to be done. This is going to be making me 2 stacks of HV circuits. And that's going to basically power us all the way into HV, and maybe all the way up to the HV circuit assembler, which is going to get us EV circuits, and then we can repeat this whole process over and over again. It has been a quite long couple of minutes, but all of our HV circuits are done, which means we can now finally push our way into HV machines. So now that we have all of our HV circuits, it's time we actually set up our first proper supply chain of HV, and that is going to be finishing up the ore processing line, because right now we have mixed mineral residue. This can be processed out with HV machines, as well as our molten ore mixture that can also be processed with HV machines. And for that, I'm going to need an electrolyzer and 2 centrifuges. First of all, let's go ahead and make 3 hulls. The electrolyzer is very cheap, and our centrifuges are going to need motors, which is a non-issue. And now we have these, and I'm going to need me a 4 amp transformer before I forget. And so now the electrolyzer is turning the mixed residue into sulfuric mineral mixture and oxygenous mineral mixture, as well as beryllium and zwaardskite. And then the sulfurous is being turned into barite, chalcopyrite, and bornite, and the oxygenous is being turned into tantalite, polysite, and cassiterite. And the molten ore mixture is going to be going into storage for a little while. So since our ore processing is now mostly done, and I've reorganized most of the ores that we get out of ore processing, well, our current ore generation setup, not even processing. Processing is going to come later, but just for now I need a neat place to store all of the ores that I currently have. Now when it comes to the stuff that I don't have, I think some HV machines are in order. Starting off, a bender. I'm just going to start by making 4 hulls immediately because I want a lot of machines, and then we're just gonna go ahead and craft the machines as they need to be crafted. So there's a bender. Now we want a lathe. What the hell is this thing? So these diamond grinding heads, I should have the materials necessary to make, yeah, both that I need. All right, cool. There's the lathe. Let's just throw these on because I'm going to need to use them in a minute. Anyways, there's the wire mill, and now we just need another hull for the macerator. Small hiccup dealt with, and macerator. There we go. So now we have all of these machines. That's very, very neat. With the suite of hurdles called HV machines now dealt with, it's time to look at the remaining hurdles, most notably the clean room, which is required to be able to cut phosphorus silicon boules, which are the main component for cheaper A2 circuits. I think the next thing we should look at is making a clean room, which is going to require me plastcrete, which is going to need some sulfuric acid. So that we can go ahead and melt down the apatite. And we add in the water. And it will turn this into a bunch of gypsum dust, which we then need to mix with marble and stone to make concrete. And the marble I can get by centrifuging stone dust, which I have been producing AFK for a while over here, and so this is going to take a good while. We can electrolyze the phosphoric acid it makes just to get rid of it and give us extra phosphorus. Now while I'm waiting, we'll go for the other stuff that I need for the clean room. That's 2 rotors, 2 motors, and then 3 item filters. And then we just need a hull after that. So now the clean room core block is done. And now I'm going to need a lot of polyethylene sheets. So we're going to kickstart this back up. Now we're going to start making some polyethylene sheets in here. And we're going to need a lot of those for all the plastcrete. Now next up is the filter casings, which is MV motors and steel rotors. Alright, that should be 8 filter casings. There you go. Let's not forget the iron door. Almost forgot the maintenance hatch that all of the higher tier multi-blocks need. Alright, let's just start making a whole bunch of steel frames with a bunch of steel that I've been producing. And we'll just see if this is enough. Alright, the stack of frames, that should be plenty. We also have almost 4 stacks of polyethylene sheets. And now we're making a bunch of plastcrete. Alright, so while we're producing this stuff, I will get to work on the clean room, which I am going to throw over here. This is going to be a temporary spot because I just want it to be able to cut my silicon boules for the time being. Alright, this should be enough plastcrete. There we go. Structure formed, needs maintenance. Alright, that's perfect. So, clean room is now clean, which means we can throw in some lubricant here, and we can finally cut our boules. Now that our silicon boules are finally cutting, we should make some sky steel, because the next step Finally, and no more detours, no more stalling, we're working on AE2. The sky steel has to be put through the EBFs, which are still cooking stainless steel. That's how I have so much. I've basically been perma-crafting this stuff, which is why I have stainless steel, roughly in the same amounts as I have normal steel and aluminum. So we're just going to throw in some sky steel and hope for the best. Some of the sky steel is done, which is why we will be putting it through the bender. And now, through the press twice, that gets us double sky steel plates, which are going to go into here with various dusts. We need diamond dust, we need Certus dust, we need gold dust, and we need silicon dust. So while we continue to progress, I'm going to make a bunch of silicon ingots because that's going to be very, very important when it comes to making all of the components for AE2. So all of this skystone is going to take a while to melt, and that's why I need to make an ME assembler. Now this thing is going to be expensive. It's going to require an HV emitter, which is going to need an Eye of Ender. Just crafted in an HV chemical bath. So we need to add that to our recipe requirements, as well as needing liquid blaze, which is melted blaze powder from sulfur and carbon in an HV reactor. Okay, we're fine. We are still going to need these two machines, which should be fairly cheap now that I look at them. There's the reactor, and there's the chemical bath done. Gonna have to extend the line again. We're reaching the border of the chunk. I might have to start curving it inwards here, maybe. Now we have our chemical bath and our chemical reactor. Let's throw the blaze powder into here. It'll go into the chemical bath, and we put in the ender pearl. Now we have our Eye of Ender for the emitter. Perfect. I am going to need 9 motors for this thing. Of course, we run out of silver cables. Back on track, and we can make our 2 robot arms. Alright, we got our plates, and now we have our ME assembler. Bam, throw this one down right here. So now once all of this has finished processing all of the diamond skystone, the Certus skystone, and the gold skystone, we will be able to turn all of it, including all of the wafers here, all of the doped chips here, into processors. All the skystone alloys are now done, which means we can turn them into plates. Now, since these things are genuinely useless outside of being plates, we're just gonna have to throw them all through the bender slowly. Now we can go ahead and throw the ones we want through the forming press. The last thing I'm going to need for my circuits is soldering alloy, so I'm going to make a bunch of that. It's making battery alloy. Hold on. Why don't we just not make battery alloy on accident? All of the soldering alloy is done, all of the printed circuits are done, and now all that's left is wait for the soldering alloy to melt, and then throw all of that into the ME assembler, I believe. This is where our phosphorus-doped chips are finally going to come in handy, because we are going to start making our circuits. It makes a very weird sound, even though it has the same animations as the assembler. Well, then again, it is an assembler. Just ME version. While the processors are being processed, I am going to go ahead and I put all of my normal Certus quartz through the autoclave, and I was able to get Certus quartz crystals. I don't think they're that useful at the moment. But what's more important is that we have Fluix now, which not only can we turn our quartz fibers into Fluix ME cables, which is exactly what we're going to do. So some of the rest of the Fluix, we're going to go ahead and throw it through the macerator, and we're going to make it into Fluix dust, which can then be mixed with steel in order to make Fluix steel, which we can then cook and cool in order to then turn it into foils, which let us make the cores that are necessary for crafting certain things much cheaper than usual. Now steel dust and Fluix dust in the mixer, and that's going to make us some Fluix steel, which we can throw through the arc furnace. All of our circuits are now done crafting. All we're missing now is our Fluix steel, which as we're getting it, we're going to bend it into foils. Let's throw all this into the ME assembler and go ahead and make our cores. Now that our cores are all done, all of the leftover Fluix steel is going to be going through the lathe in order to make frames for all of our machines. Anyways, now we have Fluix steel frames and a bunch of components, as well as a bunch of stuff inside of the storage, which means it's going to be time to start making our pieces. So first things first, we want a controller. That'll let us use channels in our network. Next up, I need my terminals, which is going to require 2 of these computer monitors. Alright, chuck all of this into an assembler. That'll make our 2 computer monitors. So that will get us 2 ME terminals. Both of the ME terminals get turned into crafting terminals. And then one of them gets turned into a pattern encoding terminal. Or Skysteel Plates is going to get us a drive. For now, let's throw our setup over here. Does it take power from laser IO cards? That is the question. Okay, yes it does. Now we have more than enough power to run the storage, except now it's empty, which means we need to make some cards. And so the step all the way back to making these, since they require ULV circuits and NAND chips require SoCs, which need to be engraved with a cyan lens, and I need liquid cyan dye for that, we are going all the way back to cyan dye, which is craftable with apatite, which I just made. Next thing we want is some lenses, so we're going to need to cut up our glass panes into glass lenses. Next up, I'm going to ore process a bunch of rock salt in order to get myself some normal salt. Bingo, there's our salt. Next step, we dissolve the salt and the dye in the sulfuric acid, and that's going to make us a bunch of cyan dye, and it's going to be perfectly on time with our lens being done. Last step here is to grab the dye and the lens and to real quick commandeer the chemical bath in order to make our cyan laser lens. And now we can wait for our SoC wafers to be engraved. Now what we're going to do, now that we have the SoC wafers being pretty much done, we're going to start working on making a stack of crafts for the NAND chips, which are the last and cheapest ULV circuits that we can make. 4 buckets of sulfuric acid, a stack of foils, and 16 PTFE sheets. Okay, all the boards are done. Now we need to pick up some iron 3 chloride. And now let's dump all of the iron chloride into here and wait for the reactor to do its magic. I'm also going to need half a stack of soldering alloys, so we're going to start to melt that right away. The SoCs are done. I say we start to work on our circuits with the boards that we currently have, of course. We have our first 60 NAND chips, and that should be more than plenty enough to get ourselves 10 of these 1K storage drives. It's going to cost us 30 processors, but that's a price I'm willing to pay, as well as a lot of red alloy fine wire and a good amount of Skysteel. All of our 1K components are done, so go ahead and chuck all of this into the assembler that's free. And of course I need 10 melted soldering alloy, because why not? I've also crafted a few of these stainless steel cells. They're quite an upgrade from the tin ones. They have 64 times the fluid storage, so I don't have to lug around, 30 of them on me at once. And now, assembler, liquid skystone alloy, and then a bunch of all of this stuff, and it's gonna make me 10 1K ME storage cells. And now we make our storage bus. Go. And at the same time, we're going to go ahead and throw in all of these disks into the drive. And so now, this is where that storage bus is going to come into play, because we're going to put a 5x5 diamond tier colossal chest right under the storage here, so that we can have a secondary space to store our items instead of the ME drive here. That's everything here. Bam. Now we have our colossal chest. And let's just start moving as much of our stuff as we can into the AE2 storage system. Now, the reason why I want this storage set up as early as possible, and why I'm going to be transferring everything in a few minutes, is because I plan on updating to the Theta build of the modpack, which is the most recent and up to now biggest major update that adds a lot of new content, but that content only comes in during EV and above. And so I figured while I'm in HV, I might as well update to, not miss out on some of the new content, so I can explore it as, as it comes out, basically. And also I want to update now as I'm setting up my new storage, because these large colossal chests are nerfed in the new version, and their max size is a 5x5, and this is a 9x9 colossal chest. Another thing that changes, and that will affect my ore processing setup, is the treated wood reinforced casings that have their item ID changed in the new update, and thus all the ones that I currently have are essentially going to be deleted. And I've been making quite a bit of extra creosote to help build a new set of these, and to basically remake my whole sifting setup in this case in order to make a good ore processing setup. And so all of that to say that I'm about to spend quite some time transferring everything that I currently have over to this terminal. And now this wireless terminal, I can charge it inside of HV machines, but it only has a range of 16 blocks at the moment, aka 1 chunk, so I am going to make some wireless boosters in order to change that. 80 meters, that's like 4 chunks, right? I feel like that's solid for now. So now, if I switch from the advanced wireless terminal to the wireless crafting terminal, it's still opening this. There we go. If I press K, now it opens. Alright, now I hope I won't be regretting this. I really hope I won't regret this. Is there a way to like slash back up my... Okay, I can slash back up my world. Okay. Let me go ahead and back up my world before doing it, because the core here, even if I break the colossal chest, the items don't drop. It's the core that contains all of the items. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break the core, and I'm going to start shift-clicking absolutely everything into the A2 storage, and just hope it doesn't overflow. And that's why I made a backup. Oh, my frame rate! My frame rate is dying. Oh, my game is dying. Okay, let's just start. Okay, that filled up pretty quickly. I'm gonna have to go ahead and basically empty all of the cells here so that I can fill them with different items as the diamond chest down here ends up filling up. This is perfect. I'll hook it up to the ore processing output eventually, but for now, this is perfectly good in terms of storage. And cut. Sorry for the fairly abrupt ending, but there's a lot left to do, and I don't want this vid to take a month to get out. So we'll have to content ourselves with the A2 system and the HV progress for the time being. Next time you see me, I'll have updated to Theta and started work on an actual ore processing setup. Don't forget to subscribe. This has been Moss, and see you next time.